Hello, my name is Emre Ekici. I will present our field report on 3D audio capture of solo piano for classical music productions. I attended a workshop at the Tokyo University of Arts on March 2023. Postdoc scholar Will Howie from the Department of Musical Creativity and the Environment organized the workshop. Toru Kamekawa sensei helped us to facilitate the workshop. At first, I will make an introduction to the term 3D audio for those that are not familiar with it. During the introduction, I will explain the justification of the study. Then I will get to the pre-production stage, where I will describe our initial plans. Next, I will summarize the production stage with tables and figures. I will then make a brief listening test for the post-production stage. I recommend using headphones for the listening test. Lastly, I will discuss some future research. A definition from Hyun-Kook Lee: three-dimensional audio provides the listener with the sense of auditory height as well as the auditory width and depth, overcoming the limitations of the conventional stereo and surround sound systems. The figure on the right is an example 27.2 setup. We have the middle layer, for instance stereo 5.1, 7.1. Then the height layer is now getting popular, for example Dolby Atmos, Sony 360 Reality or Auro. And lastly, the bottom layer is in development. Most known example for bottom layer is NHK 22.2 or 27.2. In this study, we focused on capture and reproduction of side surround information, which are marked as SI left and SI right on the figure. Justification. The multidimensionality of 3D audio offers a challenge to engineers and researchers, as now there are more variables to investigate, and the relationship between these new variables in recording situations is understudied. This field study focuses on investigating recording techniques for side surround loudspeaker reproduction, the only variable in the recording setup. Another important consideration is that 3D audio is still a new domain in the history of music. A new medium required novel aesthetics. The traditional ways of producing stereo recordings are still somewhat valid in 3D audio. However, these ways are not supposed to be limitations for 3D audio. Recent developments in the accessibility of 3D audio production are fundamental for content creators, composing new music specifically for new audio medium formats. This field study reflects the perspective of recording engineers in such circumstances, where they are supposed to adapt to a specific repertoire, instrumentation, and room. Lastly, we value documenting this transition period from stereo to 3D audio to future-proof our work, hoping to give an idea about how the recordings were assembled for future researchers, taking into consideration that there is relatively little analysis of the processes by which production decisions are implemented by recording engineers in the 3D audio production of classical music. Our experiment was to find good spots for side surround loudspeaker reproduction. We generated some recommendations. Contain diffused and decorrelated signal that is mostly lateral reflected energy. Maintain frontal image quality and stability. Spread out the total environmental image by enhancing the environment width. And do not create a conflicting phantom image with the frontal sound image. We devised 4 pairs for side surround speaker reproduction based on these recommendations. We have chosen 3 pieces for the experiment. Bach's piece is selected to investigate transients, auditory streams, and sounds with shorter decay times. Mozart's piece is preferred to blend preferred for a blend of sustained chords and faster melodies. Liszt's piece is chosen due to having a wider range. I will play an excerpt of Desclavier's playback for demonstration. So we try to minimize the performance variable. Production stage. Unfortunately, I don't have time to explain the whole decision-making process. I try to summarize everything with the tables and figures. These are one-to-one routings, meaning one microphone equals one loudspeaker. This figure is the overhead view for the microphone placements. And on the left, we have the input list for the microphones. I will stay on this slide for a few seconds. This figure is the side view. Detailed explanations about all the decision-making process will be in the conference proceeding for those who are interested. This is the real-life picture. This picture was taken from upstage right angle. This is Tokyo University of Arts, Senju campus. A lot of microphones for a piano. And this is the house right view. Okay, we have the listening test for the post-production section. This will be an example comparison for side surround variables. I picked up the most obvious comparison to illustrate it better. The one on the left, SI3 pair, the purple pair, is a near coincidental pair of Sennheiser MKH 8040, 17 centimeters apart in cardioid mode, and has significant correlated signal. The one on the right is SI5, the white pair, a space pair of Austrian Audio OC818, 4 meters apart, also in cardioid mode, and has significant decorrelated signal. Let's listen to them one by one. I want you to focus on the instrument-space relationship and the stereo image. SI3 purple first. Now SI5, the white pair. The overall impression of SI3 pair, the one on the left, in the studio was that it narrowed the envelopment. The SI5 pair, the white one, gave a much better envelopment and had a better sense of integrated sound field with the remaining microphones. The listening test was difficult for everyone involved, so don't worry if you had difficulty hearing the difference in computer speakers. It's much better with the headphones. So, For further research, there are a few points to discuss. As 3D audio capture requires more setup time compared to stereo recordings, flexible and adaptive planning become even more important. We had to improvise in the recording session because we had the piano was out of tune, so we had to pick other pieces. So we had to do a repertoire optimization, for instance, and a lot of things happened during the setup. So flexible and adaptive planning is even more important in 3D audio capture since there are more microphones to place. The recording team observed that one set of pair, in this case SI3, the purple pair, disrupted the whole experience in this case. The final decision should be made on the choice which serves well for the integration of sound field. During the production stage, the recording team agreed that critical listening for 3D audio is slightly more demanding compared to stereo or traditional formats in terms of cognitive effort. Another realization of this field study was the advantage of using Yamaha disc clavier for controlled recording sessions. Although the performance of this instrument doesn't offer any style or character, it does perform any material precisely, which helps recording engineers to focus on the recorded sound and possible improvements. For instance, this experiment would be difficult to conduct if there was a need to book a pianist for an entire day and ensure that the pianist was ready to perform any piece continuously. However, when a musician hears themselves right after the recording, if the relationship between the performer and the place is well captured, the player gets inspired and immediately reflects on the next take. This lack of human touch is a disadvantage of using Yamaha disc clavier, since the medium couldn't interfere with the player's performance. We were interested in sharing this field report not only as an experiment but also as an example log of the craft for future-proofing our work. We consider this work an extension of the primary idea behind recording sound. How we assembled the music in the past is a question that historical musicologists are interested in, since it is not possible to find any formal or written sources in most of the released music. This field report exemplifies increasing the value of metadata in record production. Lastly, multi-output, multi-pattern microphones would be ideal when the microphone placement was committed, but not the polar pattern. Conclusion. This field report narrates the 3D audio capture of solo piano for classical music productions in studio settings. The techniques and decision-making processes described in this field report are based on technical and practical knowledge supported by in-situ evaluations. The purpose of the report is to provide guidance for recording engineers and producers who are creating content for immersive audio systems. Since many distinct recording scenarios exist, a single technique is generally insufficient to satisfy the technical and aesthetic needs. Optimizing technical and aesthetic objectives during recording sessions is essential for superior craftsmanship in emerging immersive audio systems. The recorded material will be made available for other researchers upon request. References. Thank you for your participation. We would like to thank Julius Johansson, Atsushi Marie, support of JSPS, and the Tokyo University of Arts. It would be best if you had some questions, and I'm listening.